And welcome back. All right, I have a completely self-indulgent program lined up for you. It's about kids and money. And I've got 3 kids, and I want to know how to help them understand and learn about money. To do that, I'm very excited to bring into the studio with me Laura Scharr-Bykowsky, a certified financial planner joining us from Columbia, South Carolina. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here, David.
All right, excellent. So you've come to talk to us about kids and money.
Yep.
That, for the audience, means that this is a passion of yours.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about your story and why this is a big deal to you.
Well, I grew up with very little money, and so I'm so passionate about education in general, about money, because I think that's the difference between being wealthy and being very poor. But I have a kid who's now 21, and I have to say I eat my own cooking. I've done all these principles myself, and he is fully financially independent and on his own. So I hope that I can make a difference for everybody else today, too, with some of these tips.
Well, I think that's what we all want as parents and for grandparents involved with their kids' lives. And, you know, especially if the grandparents have resources, they want to be smart in their involvement with the grandchildren.
Sure.
That we're able to build and nurture independent adults.
Exactly.
And that learn the value of money, but also can enjoy money at the same time.
Right. It's a fine balance. So what you want to do is make sure that you are gradually weaning your kid off the bank of mom and dad. You're teaching them that respect about money and how to use it properly, how to save some, spend some, and give some. But that you're not just doing everything for them, that ultimately, as they get older, they're taking on more and more of their financial responsibilities, such that hopefully when they leave college, they can be financially independent and not an attachment to your couch for the next 10 years.
I think back to when I graduated from college. That's about when I graduated from college and had my first job. That's about when my mom and dad really kind of weaned me off of the support. And it was a significant amount of support, and I thank them every day for that. They made what I do possible because they gave me a very good push start and taught me the value of money and the value of hard work. And so I'm, of course, right now myself working with my wife on how we're going to do that with our kids. And I guess one of the first places we should start is with the subject of allowances.
Correct. So my tip is to start early. And let's say they're in preschool, they're between 3 and 5. You can give them a few dollars a month. And then, of course, that increases over time. So that by the time they've got a car, you're maybe giving them, I don't know, $30, maybe even $50 a month. It depends on your family's budget. But the whole point is, as you're increasing the allowance, you are also increasing the responsibility that they are taking on for purchases. So the way I handled it with my son is that I told him anything you want that's kind of extra, you're going to pay for. So whether that's going out with friends, video games, a special toy, entertainment, that was all on him. So that's where his allowance came from. I paid for the basics. He was in charge of everything else. So like I said, it's taking the money out of your budget and giving it to him. It's money you probably would have spent, but you're making them make the financial decisions.
I see. It's kind of like the federal government giving a grant to a state. This is on you.
And it's not just kind of free money. What I always encouraged my clients to do was to take that allowance and tie it to responsibilities. So they are expected to do chores because hey, that's life, right? We work, we do a good job, we get paid. We want to teach them you don't get money for nothing.
Right. So as they get older, as their responsibilities increase, and as their ability to decide what they want to spend money on, or just a sheer number of different things, that kind of all comes up together.
Correct.
Okay.
And you also want to make sure when they get their allowance, they're not spending it all. They're not blowing it, because that's not real life anyway. We don't want to encourage them, okay, here's money, just spend it all.
Well, that brings me to the next thing, is about setting limits. Setting limits on what they can spend their money on, and also maybe what we as parents are going to spend our money on for them, so that everybody knows the rules and we're clear.
Right. And so really that's just as simple as, like I said, for us it was, we'll pay for the basics, but anything you want extra. If you're going to go out with friends, that's on you. If you're going to have the car, I might buy you a used car, but you're going to pay for the gas.
Right.
And once again, you're tying that to responsibility. You're saying, because my son always knew, if you got in trouble with that car, you were going to lose the car.
Okay.
And so
consequences.
Consequences.
Yeah.
It's all about consequences. And by the way, if my child is being very financially responsible, I'm going to reward that. So for example, one of the things that I encourage people to do is match what their child saves. So I think that's just, it's a good way to reinforce that saving is very, very important. It's something our society doesn't do very well.
Yeah, my wife and I as parents have experimented with a lot of different things about either the jars of saving and charity and spending. We've done allowance, not done an allowance. They will help you when you need it. We always have asked and expected them to do certain chores and just to pitch in as part of a family.
Yeah, we all have roles, and it's trial and error. You have to find what works for you. But I do think the allowance is important because it enables them to start making financial decisions.
Well, they take some
important.
responsibility.
Absolutely.
And you know what, too? I think, obviously, as kids and they get older and we want to help them become independent adults, we have to let them, and this, of course, is a challenge for me, for my kids, is letting them have more and more control and some of their own decision-making, because I need them at some point, and for them, too, to become more independent.
Absolutely.
It's just kind of shifting that
That's
over.
a goal. You want that gradual weaning off, because there's nothing worse than cutting a kid off cold. If you've been providing all this assistance and then they get up college like, okay, sorry, you're on your own.
Right.
That's kind of harsh for them too. So if you gradually wean them off the bank of mom and dad, it's easier for them as well. And
that's where setting the limits and kind of creating a framework. And I love the idea of the matching. We've done that with savings, and I want to incent them and get them used to, you know, that if they put the money away, there will be matching. And of course, that ties into an employer and what an employer might do with a 401k plan.
Correct. So that's what I tell people. As soon as the child has any kind of income, I also encourage the parents to tell the kid and open up for them a Roth IRA, because that money is growing tax-free, and they're so young. That's over many, many years. It's incredibly huge benefit for them. And if they're going to say they make $1,000 over the summer and they put $500 into the Roth IRA, you can match that at $250. That's 50 cents on the dollar. And you've now basically taught them the same thing that their company's going to do when they reach, you know, graduate and get a job and they start their 401k. They now know, oh, wow, that's the company's matching and giving me free money, not unlike what Dad did with my Roth IRA. So it's a good precursor to like the real world.
Well, I like that a lot because my kids are all different, but they're all very strategic in their thinking. So it gets them thinking longer term, and they are all each maximizers in what they want to try to do.
Right.
Now, the other part of this that I think is important to talk about, because I think it's very good to create incentives for kids to nurture and reinforce good and striving behavior. How about rewards for achieving certain goals? Yeah,
so I'm going to tell you what I did, and it worked out well. And some people say not to do this, but it worked really well for me. So I would tie, obviously, they had, you know, he would have to do his chores and such, and certain responsibilities, as well as do well in school in order to get that allowance. And I was very strict about this. If he didn't do his chores, he did not get his allowance.
Okay.
And so you have to really stick with this. Now, I also would tell him, if you got through high school without doing drugs or alcohol, I will give you some money. And I gave him a few $1,000s. And he knew, I mean, he remembered
He knew it was coming.
He knew it was coming, and I wrote that check, and I was happy to write that check. Now, not every family can do that, but I just like the idea of financially rewarding someone for good behavior and also taking away things if they, you know, natural consequences. Because that's the way our society works, right?
Well, a carrot and a stick.
Correct.
How about for grades and for, you know, good report card and, you know?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's maybe where the grandparents want to get involved.
Okay.
You know, we will give an incentive if you do really well. And, you know, believe me, it's a great incentive. It's worked well for me, I have to say.
Well, I like the idea, too, of rewarding them for not spending. You know, if you give them a certain amount of money for a trip or something they're going on, maybe a church camp, and they come back with money, they can keep it?
That's exactly what I've done. So, and that's really hard. Kids have that money. It's not theirs. It's found money. And often when, I mean, that's just kind of human nature. When we get found money, we spend it. So if they're going to save some of it and bring it home, I'm going to go, wow, that is awesome. I'm going to reward you for not spending all of it, and you can put that in your kitty and you can save that.
And if you save it, I'll end up matching it later. I mean,
Maybe.
good grief.
Yeah,
found
absolutely.
money plus a bonus on top of it.
But it's teaching them to learn how to work within a budget too, saying it's good to have some left over at the end.
That's excellent. How about the communication or the learning process? Do you sit down and drill this into them like it's a classroom? Do you have them read stuff on their own? Do you try to do it around the dinner table?
Okay, so what I like to do is when my child was young, and we would read basic books about money concepts. I like The Richest Man in Babylon. I think that's kind of a good one, but there's great books out now for all age levels. But I think the most potent way of teaching your kids about money is to sit around the dining table and talk about stories. Talk about, families don't do this. Families do not talk about money, unfortunately.
Well, that really is the key question I want to get to, and you've served up a nice opportunity, is how much do we tell them about our family's finances? My son is the oldest, and I'm finding he's curious about our finances and how it works.
Well, okay, so you don't want to be super specific, but here are my kind of guidelines. You don't want to tell them too much, and you never want to make it a negative thing. You never want to be angry with your spouse or have them see you fight about money. You want to try to keep it calm, but kids learn by stories,
right,
and good and bad. So, for example, 2008 was a tough year. I think that's a great opportunity for parents to tell stories about their experience. So they could say, for example, the parent could say, in 2008, a lot of people lost their homes because they were over-leveraged.
Yeah.
We always had a very reasonable mortgage, and we didn't lose our home, and we're so happy about that.
Okay.
Then they could say, we had an awful lot aggressively invested in the stock market, and we lost a lot, and it was tough, but we stayed the course.
Right, we didn't panic.
Or we could say, and we sold when it was going down, and boy, did we make a mistake. We should have, so either way, it's a teachable moment. Another one could be, because I think that's a big one, if the family had a situation where they bought something on credit and they didn't, it was something that was crazy. Maybe it was a trip, or maybe I don't know, and it took them forever to pay that back.
Right.
That's a great teachable moment. You need to teach your kids about these because they're not going to hear it elsewhere, and they want to hear about your lessons learned, the bad and the good.
I like the idea, and I've done it with my kids. I like involving them in the purchase of something for them, where they participate and they get to see it firsthand. Maybe if you're dealing with a salesperson, and because it creates an opportunity for them to see human behavior and interaction, and just to start to understand how that stuff all works.
Absolutely. So the other rule that I have is that you do want to make sure that your kid has skin in the game. And like you're saying, you're involving them in the financial decisions if they have skin in the game. So we told our son, and I think this is really important, by the way, all these tips, even for wealthy parents and grandparents, probably even more so. So I told him, you were going to pay for some of your college. And so I said, okay, let's call it $4,000 a year that you're responsible for, and you can pay me back whatever we can do, but that's your responsibility. Well, he had skin in the game then. He literally calculated how much it costs for each class he was going to take, and he said, I'm not skipping my classes because I know it's worth X hundreds of dollars.
And it's going to cost me more to take it again.
Right, and he also, what he did, I said, why don't you call up the admissions office if you can negotiate a scholarship. Now, they don't give merit scholarships at Carnegie Mellon where he went, but I said, if you can negotiate for them to match the scholarship that you got from this other school, I will take it off what you owe me.
Wow.
He called up that admissions office at the tender age of 17 and negotiated with them to get a scholarship, and he did.
Wow.
And then what he also did was, because he had to pay that money back, he took extra credits his senior year so he could get a part-time status the last semester, and he saved $5,000, and he almost eliminated all this debt back to us.
Excellent.
So skin in the game.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when it's their money, they find ways to be very careful about how they're going to spend it.
That makes for a proud financial mom.
Obviously, it's working, so.
That's very good. Well, right now what we're doing, what I like actually is time involvement. Not just the money part, is get off the video game. You're going to go to the store with me.
Love it.
And we're going to work on this together and engross them and involve them in the process, because it takes time, and it's not just all my time, it's going to be their time too.
Yeah, teach them about comparison shopping. Teach them about how to look for coupons. Teach them as a role model. You do not want to be an impulse buyer and see them, have them watch you do that and then go, by the way, don't you buy that on impulse. We are the biggest role models for our kids, so it's important. They're looking at our behavior.
Well, and that brings into another really key subject, and that is the idea of, you talk about impulse buying and making prudent, well thought out decisions. Part of that is also trade-offs. Helping them understand that if we do this now, we can't do that. Or if you do want to do that, then we need to be careful about something else.
This is the biggest topic, I think, of the whole discussion we're having here. And if we can get something for them to really take home, it's this trade-off concept, because people don't often get that money is limited. It doesn't grow on trees. So trade-offs. So for example, if you're going by the candy aisle and they want that candy, well, by the way, mom's budget, I've already spent my grocery money. If you want that candy, you can either get it from your allowance, or by the way, take that cereal back and take, so they learn that it's limited. The other thing that, for example, you can do is if you, let's say your HVAC goes out and you have to pay $12,000, $15,000 for that HVAC. You have a family meeting and say, you know what? We had to pay for that. It was an unexpected expense, so we're not going to go on that big vacation this year.
Right.
That drives the message home. A lot of parents would say, I don't want to tell the kid that. I've already promised them this vacation.
Sure.
And they'll go on credit card debt.
Right.
Once again, even if you're a wealthy family, like, I think it's important to teach them trade-offs.
I think it's important to point out when you can't afford something, than even, involving them in some of the other parts of the finances. Like, look, we can't do this because we can't afford it. We don't have the money.
Yep.
We're not, able to write checks, endlessly. And for them to understand that concept, that there's a limit, especially for families of different financial capabilities, I just think that's critical. I
have had, instances of clients where they come in and they just feel that they have to give their kid this expensive, traveling sports or the expensive wedding, and they can't afford it. And it's so important for kids to understand how their parents navigate those decisions, because you're their best role model. So for example, when we were paying for college, we told our son, guess what? Christmas is going to be very limited. Maybe we each get a $100 gift for each other, because could we afford it? Sure. But we wanted him to understand that if there's all this money going out, there has to be some sort of pullback somewhere else. Money's limited. You're going to have to be making these decisions of, going forward in your life. So if we can show you how we're doing that, that's going to help you going forward.
We had water damage in my house, and we had to deal with that. And fortunately, the insurance deductible is not very high because of the type of water damage. But when you're in the process of doing all those things, insurance never covers 100%.
Oh, yes.
But also, you think about maybe some other changes you want to make. So we agreed as a family we would make some of these changes.
Right.
And it was going to be at the sacrifice of not being able to do the trip. But they understood it.
I love that. So that's so important. Once again, you're teaching them that there's not this unlimited bank in the sky. You don't just get money. It's limited, and you've got to be able to navigate these decisions. That's the best thing you can do for your kids, is teaching them how to learn how to manage their budget. And if they go over here, something's got to give here. All right. Well, we're all still learning, Laura. And I'm glad you could come and share with the audience. And it's for both parents and grandparents involved with their kids' lives. So Laura Scharr-Bykowsky joining us from South Carolina, and very glad she can be with us. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, David.
All right.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.